I've been thinking about online universities. Well, that's easy. Lectures and tests. That's what universities do. It's like, no, that might be, maybe that's 5% of what universities do.
5%?
Yeah, I would say so. Here,
that low?
Well, here's a bunch of things universities do. They confer an identity upon you. Who are you? I'm a student. Okay, respectable. So for $120,000, let's say, it's more than that sometimes and less than that, you now have an identity for 4 years that your culture respects.
Okay.
And that means you have a container within which you can have intellectual freedom while you're deciding what you want to do with the rest of your life. Instead of torturing yourself about how useless you are because you don't have a productive job yet. So that's a big deal. God only knows what that's worth, but not nothing. Well, how about finding a mate? So there's evidence now coming out, I don't know how reliable it is, you know, that it's about 2 women for every man in many academic institutions now. And that proclivity towards female dominance seems to be increasing. However, it appears that once the men drop to 1/3 of the population, the women stop going. Well, you think, why is that? Well, why the hell do you think it is? You go out of your little town, you know, you want to find a new peer group, and you're young. It's one of the things you want to do is find a mate. So part of the reason you go to a good university is because the sorting has already taken place. It's like, well, you know, this person's got a high school diploma and they're clued in enough to pursue college education.
Filtering system.
Yeah, so that's a huge deal. And then universities also act as a filtering system for businesses because they use the SAT as a entrance requirement. So if you hire someone as a graduate from a high-end university, you knew that they had a high IQ because the SAT is an IQ test. And God only knows what that's worth. And then you shed your peer group, your old peer group, and you establish a new one, maybe when you're a bit wiser. And that's one of the major elements of my college education was the transformation of my peer group. That was huge. And then there's personal relationships between you and the professors if you're lucky enough to establish them. That's a big deal because then you get to interact with someone who's an embodiment of the academic tradition and see how they act. That's different than listening to what they say in a lecture. And then there's the social surround, the joint meals. They make a big deal of this at Cambridge and Oxford because the students eat together in their colleges. And God only knows how important that is. And then there's the part of being an embodied actor in that academic tradition and learning to speak and write. And so that's just a handful of things universities do. And that's not lectures and tests online. And to reduce it to that might destroy it completely, could easily be. And it's the same with our political institutions. They depend on these real world substructures that, like engagement in civic society, we have no idea how important that is. And the fact that that's starting to deteriorate in Washington could be fatal.
You know what I would be curious about? You know how in America, the one school university that was popping 20 years ago and everybody said, oh, I can get my MBA online. It was Phoenix University. Phoenix University, right? And I recruited a few of their sales guys, and they're legit sales guys because they're selling is what they're selling. I saw their sales training was great, but one of the things I'd be curious about is how much do they get from boosters? Like kids graduate from Phoenix University and they got the degree online. Like I wonder, oh my gosh, I'm so loyal to the school. I got to give these guys 10 grand. You know, I want to contribute because this university changed my life. Did it though?
So if you enjoyed this little short segment from the podcast that we did, here's another short segment to watch. Or if you want to see the entire podcast, click over here. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.